Good evening, good evening, good evening. Sorry that I swallowed my tongue. Welcome to The Caring View, the only online social care chat show available weekly on YouTube. Before we get started, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit that bell. You'll get notified every single time that we upload some new content. And follow us on Twitter. Everything that we discuss tonight will be the views of our own and not that of our respective companies. Now, before we get started, huge apologies for being late this evening. There have been gremlins within the network, so our show tonight is going to be a heck of a lot shorter than was originally planned. But we will be rescheduling, and we will be going live with a discussion on internal and external staffing, hopefully on the 8th of March. We're lucky that we managed to book it in because we are pretty much now booked up for episodes until mid-May, is it, Mark?
Yes, towards the end of May now. So I saw a message earlier just confirming the next guest in for the 24th of May. So yeah, it takes us all the way through really to middle of the year, which is crazy really. And I think that's some of the things I always found that as a home manager when you were planning rotas, that you were planning rotas so far in advance that actually your year just went really quick because in your mind you're already 6 months ahead. So yeah, no, it's really good. So really looking forward to some of the subjects and conversations that are coming up.
I mean, some of the things just to touch upon, we've got CST therapy. And now, everyone who knows our fabulous Dawn, who can't be with us tonight, is passionate about CST, is a trained CST therapist and trainer herself. So that's going to be a really interesting discussion. We're also talking inadequate care homes. We are talking, what else have we got coming up, Mark? Menopause, children's services, disability services.
Yeah, we've got somebody coming on to talk about a 4-day working week and how that could work in social care, which I think is really interesting because I think there's so much in the media about it.
Look at this. We're threatening not to do a full show tonight. We are threatening that we are going to take ourselves off air early and not discuss external and internal staffing issues. And lo and behold, those gremlins have gone. They've been put in the blender, and we do have the fantastic Shant car with us. So I tell you what, let's forego the narcissism tonight. Let's not talk about ourselves, Mark. We're already missing the first 15 minutes of the show. Why don't we bring Shand in straight away and we'll have a good discussion.
Yes, let's do it. I'll bring her in. Oh, ready?
Hello, I'm in. Finally, oh my God, it was so hard. Absolutely.
Good evening, Shand. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, fabulous. Now, for all of our wonderful listeners and viewers, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yeah, sure. So I'm operations director for multi-time awards winning recruitment agency. We supply staffing to the NHS as well as the health and social care sector. And we've been doing this across Scotland as well as the UK. Apart from doing staffing, we also supply PPE and procurement. So across England as well as international, we were very successful. We done it before COVID, but we were really successful during the pandemic period, of course. But we touched countries like Africa, India when they were at their peakest with COVID rates. So that was obviously really nice to be able to support countries like that, as well as obviously UK and our current clients and really our existing clients as well. So yeah, it's been really good, hectic. I'm sure everybody understands how busy it is. It's like an absolute roller coaster that's not stopping at the minute.
It's incredible, isn't it? Now, if anyone is to search you online and to search number one healthcare, they will see multi-award winning.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, what? So tell us about your awards.
So we were 2-time award winning, and we were award winning for the supply of healthcare professionals in Scotland. We won it twice, in obviously year after year. So hopefully we'll take the third year as well and continue to get it. I think it's with number one healthcare, we don't really run as a traditional agency. We kind of work with clients because we know, agency is perceived as and when it's needed for clients. So we kind of work with clients to help their organization in terms of staffing and giving them that continuity, giving them that level that they need to operate within their organization, and even supporting clients to take on, because everybody knows recruitment's got a bad name. They fear from the cost, the extra commission cost, the cost. So we kind of work with clients to say, actually, if you're needing, a vacancy fulfilled, let's work with you and see how we can do that. Whether, we give you a candidate, see how they go for a couple of weeks, and then you can take them free of charge. So you kind of build that trust with your clients, and you have to be, speaking to clients every single day, really, because you have to, you have to show that you care. And end of the day, being in the healthcare sector, you do have to care. We're caring for vulnerable people, it's young adults, elderly people, it's not just we're trying to fill in a job. And one thing I thought it was really good to obviously talk about the role of a recruitment consultant, because people obviously sees a recruitment firm and then the first thing they think about is the costing. It's not really that, because a recruitment consultant is given a really hard job, because as much as they're trying to find a candidate for the client, they also have to find the job for the candidate. So they're having to sell the candidate to the client as well as selling the client to the candidate, because you can't really force anybody to do a job and if you don't sell it right. So it's easy to find a candidate, but it's hard to find the candidate, I feel. And it's, a recruitment consultant, they can have a make or break relationship, because if they don't fulfill their job, then you've lost the client, you've lost the candidate, you've lost the money, the time, the effort, the reputation, the repeat business. And then if somebody has a bad experience with a recruitment consultant, then it's a bad experience for all recruitment consultants. So you really need to understand what you're doing when you're especially in recruitment, because anybody can say, oh, this person can do the job. But actually, until you do the full process, and until, not everybody can be a recruitment consultant, because I really do feel that you need to know how to sell.
I was going to say, so my experience of, I've never used a recruitment consultant. It's not something I've really ever had the budget for. I know you're saying it's not about cost, but my experience of them is, hi, did you get my email last week? No, you didn't send me an email last week. I've got 3 nurses in your area that are able to start straight away. Do you want them? Click here to unsubscribe. That's my sort of experience with recruitment consultants. So what makes you stand out? What makes you fantastic? Well, not just you. What makes a good recruitment company, a good recruitment consultant?
I think it's not sure. A good recruitment consultant doesn't oversell themselves. So it's a recruitment consultant doesn't. So for example, my good example is if somebody said to me, "Sell me a pen," okay. A recruitment person could come in, or somebody who's selling something could come in and say, this pen is black pen, it's got a nice silver bit, you can sign official documents, However, a recruitment person or a seller would come in and ask questions. So how often do you write? What do you need that pen for? Do you need a lightweight pen? Do you want a heavyweight pen? What type of pen do you want? And that what makes a difference, because the more you learn as a recruitment consultant, you need to ask these questions, because it's not what somebody wants, it's what they need. You need to give them. And sometimes talking about your needs can actually change from when you first started, because you might need, like, for example, a support worker. You might need somebody who's got the mandatory, training. However, when you start talking, you might actually be like, can I actually have somebody who's epilepsy trained? Or can I actually have somebody who's medication trained already? So it's not technically what they want, it's what they need. And that's what you need to step aside or step apart from, because you can give anything anybody wants, but it's harder to give them what they need. And then it lasts longer. And then you get that good reputation.
I think we're having a masterclass in sales here, Mark.
I know, it's so funny because we do obviously our training in our offices. And one of my colleagues, a lady came in and he was obviously doing the training. And she said to him, you can sell me air and I will believe I need this. It was so bad because we were so passionate. And just the way she said it, and she was like, even if you told me this plant was gold, I would believe you. It's you're so good at selling. But I think when you get so passionate and you kind of learn with experience, and at the end of the day, this is my field that I'm in. And this is how I talk to clients, because I'm not really, my main concern is not about the money or I want your business. My main concern is how can we work together to get you what you need? and it's building that relationship. You have to have an open conversation with clients, because bearing in mind, any external company that comes into your organization is just as and when, it's never forever. So when you go in with that mindset already as an external company, you're already prepared to then work with that client just for a short period at a time. And sometimes it does last long. I mean, when we have, our catches up with our clients every week, we tend to find that it actually lasts longer to speak to them. It actually lasts longer, our relationship with them, because we're really honest. And my thing is, and I've always said, as a company, our priority is a duty of care, and we're supplying people to look after vulnerable people. So it's not so much about the business or the work that we get from this client. It's about the reputation and the safety and really the morals. And I think that's what really steps us apart from other organizations, because we do go that extra mile. And I just think it's just the company itself, you need to have this, and especially when recruitment has got a bad name. I don't want to be a part of that bad name. I want to try and make the difference to make a good name. So touch wood, we're doing fine with that.
I think some of the negativity and the thoughts about agencies, and it comes back to what you were saying earlier about how you have to work for the person and the company. Mm-hmm. Is I've used agencies in the past, both from a company point of view, but also for myself to find a job. And I remember being contacted by agencies in the past, and they're like, "Are you looking for a job?" And you kind of not, but you kind of, I always entertain the conversation. And then, there have been times when I've said, "This is my current job. I'm happy in this job, but can you find me kind of something that would progress me in my career?" Uh-huh. But they still send you jobs that are for jobs that you're currently doing, or actually, like, as in my world, would be like a step down. So you kind of like, you obviously haven't listened, and then it obviously impacts. And like you said, it obviously then tarnishes all the agencies, because then you think, well, actually, I've had this experience here and here. They're all like this. How do you in your company do it differently? How do you make sure that obviously people aren't going?
The way we do it is we kind of go unplanned, and I think we've learned from experience and learned from certain situations is there's no point approaching anybody until you've got what they want. So you can get them registered, you can get them all on board, ask them for their documents, their IDs, their training, everything. But just be honest with them, because if they're asking for something a level up, you obviously got to say to them, well, this is a time scale. And I think it's better to be honest than keeping somebody waiting for so long. And I think we've learned this with experience that, don't contact anybody unless you've got what they want or what they need, because there's no point, because we're dealing with people, and we're dealing with people who's desperate for a job, and that person who's desperate for a job can be calling you every single day. So there's no point having that headache that so-and-so is calling you every single day. Have you got an update? Have you got me a job? I need a job. I need to pay my mortgage at the end of the month. I need to do this. I need to do that. What sets us apart is we can onboard a candidate on, or we could even, do a contract with a client. However, we kind of give them a time scale to say within this period and this period, we hope to have a successful, outcome. And with that successful outcome, every day is not the same. So what we do is we have to shortlist candidates. We have to do the advertising. We have to do, everything to get a successful outcome. But we're just really honest between the process, because there's no point, lingering somebody on. It's no point lying to somebody, or it's definitely no point downgrading them, because that's not what they're asking for. They've obviously worked so hard to get a position. And one thing what really sets us apart, and I wanted to obviously talk about that, is we promote internal recruitment as well. So we work with clients to see how they can do internal recruitment, because I think internal recruitment is a fundamental part of an organization, because staff and workers are so important to any organization. You wouldn't have your organization running if you did not have your workers or your staff there. So we kind of promote internal recruitment, because we feel, and this is what we do in our organization, we feel it's really important to encourage career pathways and career progression, because what we find is somebody's going to be in their position maybe 3 to 5 years, But within that 3 to 5 years, they are expecting more responsibilities because they're going to get tired of doing the same thing. They're going to get bored of it. And then it decreases the staff and retention because they're going to go to somewhere else where it's going to offer more career pathways. So we kind of work with clients to say, how can you utilize your internal staffing to then approach external staffing? Because internal recruitment is, the progression, there's career progressions, career pathways. It creates, the staff retention be a lot longer. Staff and satisfaction is a lot longer because they're more happier to stay in the organization, and also creates opportunities, I feel. So that's just like another part that what we do. And I think that's what works really well with us. And that's why we work really well with clients.
Yeah, there's definitely something about making sure that we recognize the strengths within our team and the strengths within our workforce. I very much like the self-managing model. And there's a very good analogy that goes around that if you're hiring for a manager for 6 months and your team are coping and managing, you don't need to manage, you don't need to hire a manager, you need to promote, and you need to be working with what you've currently got. And I think it's a very clever way of thinking about it, and not thinking, we must go external because no one, I mean, even down to the situation where we go external because there's a lack of morale within our current workforce. Well, is the lack of morale because there's no challenge there anymore? Is the lack of morale because there's no movement for them? Have you asked them whether they want to move? So you do recruitment. Are you a temporary staffing agency? Like, I'm short this weekend. Can you come up?
So we provide. So we do the staffing agency as and when as well. So we do two parts. We do the temp to perm, obviously job roles, and also we do the agency side of things as well. Pre-COVID to during COVID to at present has completely changed its movement. So pre-COVID, it was either used agencies just to fill in, the blank hours, staff sicknesses, staff holidays, maternity. You only used agency then. During COVID, it's been a mixed response, and there was either 2 to 3 ways people used COVID. So they would either not use agency staff members at all because they had to close their door to everybody. The second one would be they used agencies, obviously, to fill in staff sicknesses during the COVID period. Or what we found, which was quite shocking, and then we kind of realized a difference between how agencies are looked at. And this is something that I want to make a movement of change for. And that's people or agency was only used when a resident or a service user was tested positive for COVID. And we found a lot of that across a lot of our clients. And it was quite unfortunate that we did find that only agency was called when somebody tested positive. And I know that they probably must have checked in with their staffing, but it was just out of the blue when somebody tested positive, and how that client, came across and said, somebody's tested positive, we need an agency member. However, it was very unfortunate, and especially when you've been working with a client for so long, to have that kind of, response from them. And end of the day, we're dealing with human beings, whether it's internal or whether it's external, they're still benefiting you because they're still filling in your blank hours as an organization. So we had to obviously do the assessment for that. There were some times where we actually said, no, sorry, we can't provide because of, the safety of our workers. Because as much as it's agency and, as much as we need to get hours in, that candidate or that worker's health and safety comes first before anything. We're dealing with people. So in terms of agencies, has been really good. And I think it helps. And one thing that I do want to say is the way we do agencies is with some clients, what we say to them is, if you're missing hours for, let's say, maybe 2-3 weeks, we can contract you a worker. So you get that continuity. Because if you're looking after somebody who's got dementia or somebody who's got autism or somebody who's got challenging behaviors, seeing a different face every single day is not useful to them. We need to provide that continuity that they're getting the same face every single day, so it has no impact on their health whatsoever. And that's whether that's contracting them 10 hours a week, 12 hours a week, 20, 37 hours a week, how many hours you need, we will provide that continuity, because it comes down to the level of care. And even having a different face every single day can have a huge impact on that resident or that service user.
Yeah, and I know there'll be people watching going, but surely agencies are rubbish. Their staff get paid no matter what, so they come in, they don't do the work, they don't pull the weight. There is that unwritten sort of rule of that's what agencies do. They come in because their contracts are doing it. You might as well work on your own because they won't pull the weight. So what makes your agency teams different? What makes your teams invaluable to the health and social care services in your area?
I think what makes us different is before any shift is assigned, we speak to the clients of what's their requirements, what are their needs. Because like I said, anybody can provide a candidate, but not many can provide the candidate. And I feel as much as they're going to represent our company or our organization, we also say that you're representing yourself. So if you do good, everybody's got bills to pay at the end of the month. So if you don't perform good, or if you don't perform to the level of care standards, then you're not going to be in your job. Because yes, you're representing the company, but you're also representing yourself. And being, for example, how we say contracted, you can then go on permanent with that client. So there's career opportunities for you. There's a career pathway for you. Also being contracted and also being, providing care to the high standards, you will also have more opportunities for more training to better yourself, to get into, to become more senior and to take on more senior positions. So,
yeah, and I'm just thinking out loud now, Chand. So, shoot me down if you will, because it's great. Keeping people in the sector is fantastic. Keeping people in social care, wonderful. We need as many people working in the workforces as possible. Do you think there will be a point where recruitment agencies, temporary staffing agencies, the benefits and the bonuses that they offer then hinders the recruitment for the wider social care sector? Or do you reckon there's a happy equilibrium that will support both temporary staffing agency staff and permanent staff within care settings?
I think it's quite obviously hard to say, but I think it'd probably be both. I mean, I don't think any changes at the minute will happen anytime soon, but I do know, like, for example, when we talk about, it's just really hard. And I don't obviously think that any changes will happen anytime soon, especially with everything that's going on, and especially the perks of being an agency and like working for an agency. You get paid more working in an agency than you do in a perm job. And even like look at nurses. I mean, they could earn up to 32 to 36 pounds an hour. So nurses over self-employed. So I think I don't think anything will change at the minute or anytime soon.
I just wanted to touch on the career progression, because I'm all for the career progression. And it's strange because I still, in some of the manager forums, I still see people talking about that they want to introduce it. And I think, how in 2022 are we introducing career progressions into social care when other organisations and sectors have been doing it for years? One thing I find is the biggest challenge is that you have your frontline care and support workers, and then obviously the roles above them. And the more you internally progress, it's backfilling those care and support worker roles, which obviously over the last couple of years has got even harder. So definitely for the company I work for now, they do an amazing job at career progression. And I'd say probably 90% of the roles are filled from within. But actually, as everybody progresses upwards, it's then funneling out the people that are at the very bottom, delivering the hands-on. And I did see one comment on one of the manager groups, it must have been last week or the week before, and they were saying that they've now got to the point where they've offered jobs, but they can't put the people in the roles because they now can't recruit into the roles that they're losing. What would be your advice to an organisation that's going through that?
Recruitment is an everyday process. So you need to, I would really say, work with agencies, but I would say work with maybe 3 or 5 agencies, because relying on one agency is never going to give you, or is always going to fall at a certain point. So don't fall when you're desperately in need. So I would always say have backup and see what's out there. Obviously, we're always advertising. Healthcare is always advertising for positions. So we understand that when somebody moves up, that position then becomes empty, and you're always having to fill in positions. But what I would encourage clients to do is look within and make a transition period, so that you can probably start 2 people off at the same time. When you get 2 people then to start fill. So for example, if somebody was to move up, have somebody already to come in that position. Don't work too fast just to get that role fulfilled and have an empty position. And that's maybe looking at inviting an agency member in. That's maybe looking at seeing how many hours you are going to be low, contracting that person. But I would say to an agency, or I would ask a client to speak to an agency and say, can you contract me this client for this many weeks? In this week, I can train that client. However, at the end of it, you give it free of charge, because you've given them contracted 13 weeks. And in that 13 weeks, you have fully trained that worker to then get into that position. And that works better, and it has a positive outcome, because you've agreed with the client, we're not going to be charged this nasty fee. We're not going to be doing get anything extra. So we can then, within a good time scale, transition people within their job at a good cost. So it's having that communication. And I feel it is an organization's responsibility as well as an agency's responsibility, because an organization has the responsibility of, bringing in an external member or an external organization within the organization. So the client has to understand what they need and make sure that the agency does do it. And work with the agency, because you might actually find that you have a better outcome if you do contracted workers. Because then if you say to the client, I'll give you, and this works really well for us, if you give me 13 weeks of this one candidate, at the end of it, we'll give it free. Clients are happy. 13 weeks, it takes 13 weeks to do so much training, so much experience. You get the full understanding of the organization. So I would really, if that's going to happen, I would really say to the client to work with an agency, see how long it's going to take you to fill that vacancy. Once you filled it, it's free of charge. And then the client's happy, you're happy, everybody's happy.
So we've spoken about how it will benefit the person working in the agency. Mm-hmm. And we've spoken about how it will benefit the companies to use the agencies, but how will it benefit those living in care? So I don't know whether you've seen in the comments, we do have some people who are living with supported living at the moment who've had bad experiences of agencies in care. Yeah. And my heart breaks, and I hate that anyone has poor experiences of care. I don't think poor care experiences should exist. I think people should be supported in the best ways that they possibly can do. Just as some poor care homes exist, it doesn't mean all care homes are poor. Just there's some, and I say the word some, I know there's quite a few poor recruitment and staffing agencies out there. Doesn't mean that they all are. What would you do? How would you, I'm trying to think of the way to put this without offending anybody. How would you, how would I, as a provider, approach the people that I'm supporting and explain to them that I'm using some temporary staff to cover the care, and they're going to get paid more than their regular carers, and you're not going to get them continuously potentially. So how would we reassure the people that we're supporting of this to make it look like that we are doing the best that we possibly can do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's the organization's responsibility as well as the agency to ask for their case notes or their notes about that resident, because it's really important to understand the needs and requirements of that resident. So before starting with any organization, I would say it's really important that you tell the resident that you're getting, this person is an agency member. However, reassure them as an organization and ask the agency to make sure that worker knows about the needs and requirements, and whether that's coming in an hour early or a day before or doing an induction, whether that's necessarily needed, then that's what's obviously needed to happen to then look after that person, is ask for notes, get an induction done. And I think again it's communication. You need to have that communication. And one thing is, I would always encourage clients to communicate with agencies, not just myself. I know that, they're using a whole load of other agencies, but have that communication, because you are going to get staff who are going to be late. You are going to get staff who are maybe on their phones during the shift when they shouldn't be. You are going to get staff that probably had their earphones in or were sitting talking. However, as a organization and even an agency, this is where all the training comes in. This is where, you have to encourage your staff to say, the more good you do, obviously you're happy doing flexible hours, you're happy picking and choosing when you want to do work. However, if you really like this client, but your performance is not good, you're not going to go back to that client. So you have to tell that, because as much as there's goods and bads being an agency member, you also need to tell them of the goods and bads. And that's by communicating. And that's why I feel that we're recruitment or agency. And I think agency's got a bad name because of maybe the cost that it has and maybe the unskilled workers that are provided. However, maybe 8 out of 10 times you do get good workers, and you do get people who will follow the protocols and the instructions of that organization. So you just have to obviously weigh up the goods and bads. But on that question, Adam, I would really say ask the organizations to pass on either case notes or ask the worker to come in an hour early, or even a day before, just as an introduction. And even ask the agency if you could do this free of charge, because if they're wanting a good relationship between yourselves, then you should ask them, can you do this for free of charge? And then they should be able to do it.
I just wanted to bring in a question that I saw that was interesting. I think from experience, and I can relate to this question because I've managed many LD services, and I've also sent care plans and documentations to a lot of different agencies. And touching on what you said, majority of agencies will send in staff, but only if you pay them extra time. So you're looking at paying them like 20 odd quid just for the staff members to come in and do an induction. What does your organisation do around training for people with disabilities, epilepsy, learning disabilities? Because obviously I think sometimes from experience, definitely from the experiences I've had, they do kind of e-learning or something.
Yeah.
E-learning for you for 20, 30 minutes, and then they're on the floor looking after people with profound disabilities. What does your agency do to upskill and train staff?
So what our agency does is we've got an in-house trainer. So she does all the mandatory physical training as well as doing the e-learning, the theory training. So we have got an in-house trainer who does that. We do, if they are new to care, we do advise the client that this person has completed their training, but we also provide staff profiles. On those staff profiles, it tells them the exact dates training was taken, what's their, PVG or their DBS number. It gives them a whole profile of that worker. Then it's up to the client to shortlist who they want to work. But you have to be honest, and that is why I encourage for organizations to speak to agencies. Ask for staff profiles. Ask for, you get foreign workers, so international workers come and they join the care sector, and they're obviously restricted hours. However, you need to be asking, as an organization, I would encourage organizations to ask for documents, because it's the safety of your company. You don't want somebody to be working more than 20 hours when their visa or their BRP card says that they could only work 20 hours per week. So I would encourage staff profiles. My organization, what we do is we do in-house training, as well as, so we do that every 6 months, internal training we do. That's physical as well as the e-learning courses. Obviously, because of the COVID and all, training centres, everything was closed like that. So what we had to do, and what we've always done, is just informed clients that this worker is new to the care sector. So whether they come in, and it's quite nice when you've got a good relationship with your client, they're able to support and provide physical training because you built that trust. And then you know that there's going to be a successful outcome. So training's every day on the job. As long as you're honest and upfront and provide, staff profiles, then you should be able to have a successful outcome.
Go on, Adam. So thank you very much, and we've had another question from Dudley. Thank you, Adam. We want to see the sector be professionalised, and it's long overdue. Surely the councils and the incoming ICSs in England provide staff with the real working wage. Do you feel this is a possibility? Adam, I'll come to you. Do you think this is a possibility in the future? So Dudley's further down has put Salford City Council have announced that they will be committing to this as well. Oh, you're on mute.
Fine me. I'll put some money in a jar somewhere. I mean, of course, it's a possibility. I'm one of these people who probably lives in la-di-da land that actually thinks that we could live in a utopian society where we don't actually need money. You know, we assign things value, we assign costs to things. You know, the wind doesn't cost, so why should wind energies? Because we're paying people. We make value. Money is the root of all evil. Groan and mumble about money aside, it should be possible. The problem stopping it for me is bureaucracy. And again, I hate to refer to memes and LinkedIn posts and stuff like that, but there was one that I saw, it was either this morning or yesterday, and there's a chap named Dave digging the ground and he's putting pipes in and he's doing all the work and he's surrounded by supervisors and managers and all these other top flying people, and they've got, budget cuts, we're going to have to let Dave go. And actually, Dave's the one on the ground doing all the work. You know, and I know Mark's got another view on this, so I won't take his point away, but there are siphons of money going on in places where actually they can be directed further. And this whole vaccine mandate thing has cost the sector millions. It has cost the country millions. And there has to be an understanding that actually, I don't think people know how they're spending their money properly. We should be investing in our workforces first. And a real living wage should be achievable in every area. I just don't think they know how to manage their books or how to manage priorities. I think Salford City Council, if they can get that off the ground and they can commit to it and get that running, they should be used as an example around the country. I know I've said minimum of £12. Mark goes higher, £15 an hour. You know, why not for people who are working in care? But it needs to be done. It needs to be committed to. And it needs to be, and this is no detriment to any other sector, it needs to be for social care. If we bring everyone up to that same rate, we're again devaluing the sector and de-skilling it by going, oh, well, it's fine because everyone's going to get this. And that's what they do with the living wage. They raise the national living wage up and everyone goes, oh, well, it's fine. Carers are now getting paid £9.40, whatever it's going to be in April. Yeah, but so is everyone. So where's the recognition for the incredible work that they do? But then we get the question: should everyone be paid equally? For me, it's a huge open door. But Mark, what's your view on why we can't achieve that at the moment?
I did personally see that poster as well with poor Dave digging the hole, and I thought to myself, the only inaccuracy is none of those people would make him redundant because none of them would get on the front line and dig that hole themselves. So that was the only difference. For me personally, and I know I've spoken about this on social media and before, is that actually, like you said, there's so much money being filtered to other people. And I look back at kind of my career and I've turned down having deputy managers and senior team members and PAs and bits and pieces, because actually I'd much rather those wages went down to the frontline staff. And one thing for me, kind of bringing it into kind of the conversation tonight, is it shocks me sometimes the amount of money that care companies spend on agency staff. You know, you'll hear, oh, we've got a bill of X £1,000 for, and I think, if you broke that money down and you gave that to your frontline care and support workers, actually you would save on agency. They're more likely to work more hours because you're paying them more likely to refer a friend because you're paying more. And it kind of solves the problem with your staffing issue. And I know one of the offices that I oversee is we are paying £12 an hour, and we were the first to do it. But actually what I've noticed is now that we've announced that it's £12 an hour, more and more in the area are saying, actually, we're going to do £12 an hour. And I think it just sets the precedent, because actually, if you've got a company down the road that's paying 12, the staff are leaving them to go for £12 an hour. So they've got nothing to do but other than to raise their wages. And I think it's just looking at cutbacks that you can make in your organisation elsewhere. And a lot of the time it is streamlining roles and responsibilities, getting rid of some of those middle management roles that actually a lot of companies have that I don't think they actually need. And it's making people not necessarily work harder, but work smarter. And I think you have always have a saying, don't you, Adam, about working smarter in bits and pieces. And it's definitely true. And I don't know, for me, I'd much rather work double if I knew that actually it was benefiting somebody else on the front line that was doing a lot of hard graft and getting paid more.
I definitely
Sorry, Shand.
No, I was just going to say, I definitely agree. And that's why, you know, you should really encourage your internal staff before the need of using external staff members, because if you show appreciation and gratitude to your internal staff members, then the staffing retention will be a lot longer. And also what you'll find is the cost or the pay won't be such a problem if your treatment to your staff members was good.
Yeah.
Because, sorry.
No,
because what I feel is how COVID has happened, everybody has now a new perception on their job. Are we being treated with respect? Are we being appreciated? During COVID, it was a clap for carers. Yeah, hey, like amazing, you're heroes. Everything's now settled. And now we're like, sorry, everybody go back to their job, what it was normality. So now people are realizing, is my pay worth me staying here? No, it's not. You either pay to keep me in my job or I'm going. And this is what it comes down to, because I think pre-COVID, it was, I love my job. I want to get into the healthcare sector. And I want to be a nurse, or I want to be this. But now people are looking at it like, am I going to be paid enough to take, no respect, no gratitude, no appreciation?
and I think when people do the budgets, where they go wrong is they start it. They leave their staff's wages till the last. So they do their entire budget. This is what we expect to come in. This is our forecast. This is how much we spend on food. This is how much we spend on electric, gas, and blah, 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 blah. This is how much we've got left. So let's organise how much we can pay our staff based on what we've got left over, and we can calculate the budget. No. Decide on what you want to pay your staff. So decide that you're going to pay your staff a national or an actual living wage. So let's say £10.50. Let's say 11. Let's say £12 an hour. You start with that. So you know how much you're going to pay on wages, and then everything else falls in line afterwards. So if it means you've got to move and look and budget and do different things and use transformation services out there to go, actually, you can streamline by doing this and save money there. But start with your staff. Start with your team. Show that you're investing in them. Otherwise, you'll never make it work. You'll never make it work.
I think you raised a really good point as well, Chant. You can't just put your hourly rate up to 12, 13, 14 pound an hour and then treat your staff badly. You have got to value them, and you still got to nurture them and upskill them and give them the training, because you are right, they will go somewhere else. And it's really interesting because I was talking with a group of people the other day about dream jobs and what your dream job would be. And so many people said that since the pandemic, actually, they'd much rather have a job and a role that fulfills their values than it would money. And actually the conversation seems to have turned. And I think before the pandemic, a lot of people would have applied for a job because of the salary and the perks that it brought. So I think you're definitely right that the pandemic has definitely changed people's mindset.
We have seen a lot of boomerang staff during the pandemic where they've gone, well, I'm going to go down the road because Tesco pay £10.50 an hour, or Amazon pay this amount, and et cetera. Where actually, where they're leaving, that care place where they've been working has such a wonderful culture that in 6 months' time, they've come back and asked for the job back, because actually they hate being treated like a number, and they hate being worked to the bone at Amazon. They may pay less, but that culture there is more supportive and welcoming. And like you say, Mark, the satisfaction that they get from that role is better. So it's equal portions, culture and respect, as well as pay, because people need to pay the bills. People need to live, and we want to live well. COVID's shown us how short life is. We don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck constantly. So,
and I think that's... Oh, go on, Chant, go on.
No, and I was just going to say that's really important to understand. What I say to a lot of people is you spend more time at work than you do at home. Your work is your first priority. So make sure you enjoy it, because, you are going to get a salary at the end of it. But do you really want to be burnt out? And I think this is what COVID really taught people. Working in the care sector, not being appreciated, having no respect, getting told to do this, do that, or you turn up 30 minutes late. This is wrong, that's wrong. People are going to be burnt out. So then it comes down to, am I being paid enough to do this job? If not, I'm leaving here. I'm taking the first exit out of here. So it's really hard. And I think COVID has been a massive learning curve for everybody. And and that's why I say to clients, I encourage you to do internal recruitment. Sort your internal recruitment out. Why are you down 50 hours a week? Why are you down 100 hours a week? What are you doing wrong before you take up my service? Because if you're doing something wrong in your organization, you're obviously going to do something wrong to my staff members. And I don't want you to then have a negative impact on my candidates I'm going to send you so then they can leave my organization. No. What are you doing wrong in your organization to then help them to say, well, actually, let's build up a structure. Let's put a plan in place. You actually don't need 10 hours a week. You actually need a contracted member. At the end of it, you then have to take them on full time. And then that could help you. And you will actually see doing that will shorten these massive, agency costing, because you're actually having an understanding, and it's not going to be pay an hour then, it's going to be on a contracted rate, which should be completely different to how much you're going to charge, pay an hour or just as and when.
See, one thing I did in my previous company when I was managing the last learning disability service was we actually overstaffed the rotors. So I was really keen. We had a lot of people that needed one-to-one care. And I was really keen that actually it was a hard job. It was incredibly hard. And actually you would leave work feeling like you'd done a hard day's work. And I was always conscious of burnout and staff thinking, actually, I could go and work in a nursing home, or I could go and work down the road in this learning disability home where actually it wouldn't be as tough going. So we overstaffed the rotors so that actually the staff had less responsibility day to day. It meant that they could spend good quality time, but if they needed a break, they could have a break and bits and pieces. And it worked really well. But what we actually found is that if somebody phoned in sick, or they had childcare problems, or they were in late, it didn't actually impact the rotors because we were overstaffed anyway. It just meant that particular day, the staff that were on shift just had to pick up the slack a bit and do what they would normally have done prior to it. But actually all the staff were on board with that because we just had that open conversation saying, actually, we're going to overstaff it. So actually, on the whole, you're going to have less responsibility. It's going to be a lot better for you. But if somebody does go sick, we're not going to get agency in. We will just have to muddle through that particular shift on that provision. And I think they all respected that actually on 99% of the time, it was so much easier that on that 1%, actually, they didn't mind putting in that hard work. And I think it goes back to what kind of conversations we've had of having a universal worker, of, tapping into the cook and the domestic staff and saying to them, actually, you might be a domestic, but actually you still need to provide care to somebody because we're all here at the end of the day for the same common goal of supporting somebody and meeting their needs.
Yeah, everyone in a caring company has to have that, whether you're admin, whether you're maintenance, whatever. You need to be able to form a human connection with someone. You need to be able to hold it. You need to be able to respect people. Carl raises another point. I know we're coming towards the end of the show now, but I think this is a really interesting point about the disparity between funding in health and social care. We saw it when they announced the increased levy, and we're going to get 30-something billion, and actually social care is only going to get a fraction of that. And we need to think about how that money is being spent in the future. And I think if anyone follows any of us on social media, you'll have seen that the Green Heart campaign is something that we're all very passionate about. Friday last week, we did find out that the NHS is pushing out a Blue Heart campaign, hashtag with all our hearts, which we think is fantastic. We want the support for the NHS. We want the support for social care, and we think they should be together. Sorry, Chand.
I was just going to say, do you notice we're all wearing blue? So we're in support of the NHS.
Yeah, exactly. You see, it's subconscious now. It's subconscious, the blue and the green, but our hearts fit perfectly together. We just need to be able to lead the way now on integration. We need to be able to lead the way for these ICSs coming forward so that these ICSs are not just our health colleagues making these decisions. There needs to be representation from the regulated workforce there. And when we talk about funding, that funding has to be as equal as possibly can be. If we do not have a social care sector, the NHS will have no foundation to stand. If we do have no NHS, the social care sector will become overrun. We're homogenous, we're symbiotic, we need to work together. So, Carl, very good point that you've raised, and I don't know the answer to it. I don't know where our money goes. I do question it sometimes, but it's something that needs to be thought about moving forwards, doesn't it?
Did they not say with the increase of the national insurance that they are going to give some to the health and social care sector?
Yeah, but I think it's about 36 billion mark that is going to make, and only 4.5-5 billion.
Yeah, so I think there's two elements. Most of it will go to the NHS to pay off their backlog. So once the backlog's paid, then it will come to social care. But the other problem is you've got frontline care and support workers that are in traditionally low-paid roles that are going to now be paying national insurance. They're actually going to be paying more on the low salary they've already got. So it's almost like they're paying for their own roles. It's a bit backwards, but yeah, I personally don't agree. But
No, and I think Dudley's been a bit precognitive for us here, because we are actually going to do an episode on overseas recruitment. It's something that is becoming more and more common within the country, and I agree. I mean, when I toyed with the idea of overseas recruitment, when I was a manager, and I was having a look at what we had to pay people. Again, I don't think it's bad that we should be paying people like that, but how are companies expected to pay such an elevated rate for people that we're bringing into the country, and yet we're not able to pay that for the people who we've currently got? There needs to be an equalness here, and I think if the government are expecting us to be paying this, and they think that this is a satisfactory wage to be paying carers, then something needs to be done so that we can, pardon me, pay everybody. I don't know.
I think that you've got on the screen from Dudley, £10, 10p an hour. I don't think I wouldn't work for a company that pays carers £10, 10 an hour. I'd refuse to work for them, because I think it just doesn't show that they value their workforce. I think that's I don't know. For me, that's a shockingly low salary for somebody doing such an important job.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like when you're in school, you don't get taught how to mortgage, and you don't get taught the basic essentials in life. You get taught trigonometry and stuff that the majority of us don't lose unless you're a boffin. You know, maybe there needs to be something out there to support providers in how to budget better, in how to make more of their income available towards wages. Maybe there needs to be some sort of national support campaign for providers on this. I have no sympathy for the ones who spend millions and millions and millions of pounds building these huge homes and then have to charge through the nose.
100%, I agree.
I think, I'm sorry, you dug your hole, you made your bed, you lie in it. You know, you wanted to build this fantastic thing, but a cinema and a hair salon does not great care make. You know, it starts with the workforce. Oh, we could talk about this all night long, couldn't we? Shanks, you must come back on. You must come back on, especially when we talk about.
But one thing is about the overseas workers is no point bringing overseas workers to treat them the same how you're currently doing it. Try and encourage the people who you've got to get back into the sector. If you're really struggling, then we can consider overseas worker. Let's try and sort out the current mess that we're in.
And we're going to be many conversations.
Sorry, Mark.
No, carry on.
I was going to say we're going to be having many conversations about recruitment over the year, I think, because as the pandemic recedes and the shore is visible once again, I think we're all going to be putting a lot of effort into recruitment. And I know, you know, it's something passionate to me, but I know it's something definitely that is passionate to Mark, and is a huge advocate of championing actual decent wages for people. So there's going to be some good conversations coming up, I think.
Amazing. Exciting though. Hopefully staffing, retentions and recruitment, we all get back to normality.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I was going to say, touching on something you said, Chand, earlier, is actually if you've got an agency member of staff in your service, is don't treat them like a skivvy. And I think we've all seen that. We've all worked for companies like, oh, the agency's here, they can do X, Y, Z, all the jobs that nobody else wants to do. Actually involve them as part of the team, you know, and share out the jobs that nobody wants to do. And actually, just because they're an agency staff member doesn't mean that actually they should pick up all the boring and poor jobs. Because actually, I think that ties in hand with actually, then you get a staff member straight away that's deflated, doesn't want to be there, does less, and then the whole cycle starts. Whereas if you get them engaged in doing the fun parts of care as well, then actually they want to be there, they're more enthusiastic and lively, and actually they want to get stuck in and involved.
I really do echo that, because a lot of people say is when they go into their first shift, they get told to do the washing or the ironing or, you know, taking out the garbage and stuff like that. And it's very unfortunate, especially when there's, you know, opportunities to work with and they have got that training and they have got that experience to do it. Because sometimes when you look at an agency, don't just think that they're unskilled workers. You know, people join an agency because of the flexibility that you could choose and pick and choose when you want to work, you know, the rate. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you're less experienced to somebody who's actually a permanent staff. You know, you could have somebody who's a mother who's got kids, so she has to be agency, you know, to finish by 2:00 to pick up her children from, you know, nursery at 3:00 or whatever. So equally, you know, experienced staff members are also working for the agency. And again, look at the nurses. These are highly qualified nurses, but what are they doing in agency because of the pay rate? So don't look at agency as any different to your perm staff. Because like people who are, like even retirement, you know, people who's close to retirement, but they want to kind of work and they kind of still want to, you know, pick up shifts or whatever. they still get to pick and choose for when they want to work or not work. So my thing is, don't look at agencies as if they're unskilled workers, because yes, they are, some people are not fully trained, or, but that could be, the setting that they're in. That could be, have an open conversation, communicate.
And anybody who works in social care is not unskilled, period, full stop.
Yeah.
If someone can turn around, and people do say this, oh, I couldn't be a carer. And I've said this many a times. If someone says to you, I couldn't be a carer, or I can't do something, no matter what it is, if they say I can't do something and you can, you have a skill.
Yeah.
Period.
That's it.
We don't need Boris to tell us that. We don't need a degree to tell us that. We don't need anything to tell us that. It is a skill. If someone can't do something and you can, it is a skill. So anyone who works in social care must be respected, period. Even if, and it's the team's fault, if they're treating the agencies like that when they come through the door and treating them as their skivvy, I would actually question myself, what's wrong with the culture? Because are they going to treat a new member of staff like that? So we've taken somebody new on, oh, they're new, they can do all the rubbish jobs for a while until they've gone through like this initiation phase of joining the company. I'd be questioning whether that attitude spreads through everything else. But we really must bring the show to a close, because we will be here all evening discussing this. I want to thank you, Chand, for persevering through technical gremlins tonight to be able to join us.
Thank you.
It's been absolutely wonderful having you. I'm sure, like I say, we're going to be discussing agencies and recruitment and all things workforce more over the next year. Mark, what have we got on next week?
Next week, we have championing social care coming on.
We do, to discuss the Green Heart for Social Care campaign.
Yes.
For anyone who follows the Green Heart campaign and has been following, because it's almost a year mark since we launched it. It was, beginning of May, was it, that we launched the Green Heart campaign? So we're only a few months shy now from when it launched. So anyone who's been watching us and following the Green Heart campaign, we've got some big news coming next week. It's going to take the campaign even further. So do not forget, tune in, and we will discuss the Green Heart campaign even further. But anyone got anything before we disappear tonight?
No, thank you very much, Chand, for joining us. Thank you, everybody in the comments, for being so active tonight. Hopefully, I've answered a lot of your questions.
And thank you to everybody in social care. I don't think we say that enough. You're watching this show because you either live in care, or you're working in care, or you want to work in care, you want to know more, you want to improve the sector. So thank you for everyone who watches and is involved in social care. So thank you, stay safe, and good night.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you again for joining us tonight on The Caring View. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and whilst you're here, check out some of the other videos that we've got up online. If you've got something that you think may be interesting for us to discuss, or if you want to guest spot with us, then drop us an email to thecaringview@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook. All the information is down there in the description box. But until then, have a good evening, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.